You ever see a whole field of flowers just burst into bloom, seemingly all at once? It looks beautiful, but it's not a coincidence, not at all. It's actually a super high-stakes biological decision, and it's time to absolute perfection. So let's dive into this hidden world, shall we?
I mean, think about it for a second. When you go to buy Easter lilies, they are always perfectly in bloom, right on time for Easter. Not a week early, not a week late. How in the world do growers pull that off with millions of plants year after year? It's an incredible feat of timing.
Well, it turns out plants are constantly listening to this silent conversation that's happening all around them. And you know, the most important word in that conversation isn't light or even water, it's temperature. They're speaking a secret language that honestly, we're only just now starting to fully understand.
And that language? Oh yeah, it has a name. We're going to unlock the science of what's called thermoperiodism. This is the absolute key to controlling when and how a plant decides to flower.
So what is it exactly? Well, thermoperiodism is a plant's incredible built-in ability to sense and respond to the daily dance between warm and cool temperatures. And this rhythm, it doesn't just tell it when to bloom, it literally sculpts its entire shape and size. It's wild.
To really get this, we have to shrink down, way, way down, and go right inside the plant cell. We're going to take a look at the molecular machinery, the tiny little control panel that acts as the plant's own internal thermostat.
Now, this might look super complicated, but we can actually think about these proteins in really simple terms. Okay, so PIF4, that's the gas pedal. Warmth makes the plant want to step on it. Then you've got the FLM/SVP complex. Think of that as the emergency brake. It's on tight when it's cold. The evening complex is like a gatekeeper, a timer that says, nope, you can only use the gas pedal at night. And finally, the FT protein. That's the text message. It's the signal that zips up to the top of the plant with one simple instruction. It's time. Bloom now. So let's just trace how this whole chain reaction unfolds. First, warm temperatures cause that gas pedal, PIF4, to build up. Then, PIF4 turns on the mobile signal FTC. That FT signal then travels all the way from the leaves, which is where the temperature is sensed, up to the growing tip of the plant. And once it gets there, it's like a key going into a lock. It turns on all the genes that build a flower. And just like that, a flower is born.
Okay, so that's the deep science. Pretty cool, right? But now let's zoom back out and see how commercial growers have basically learned to hack this entire system, using temperature as this incredibly powerful and precise tool to get exactly what they want out of their crops.
And the main tool in their toolbox is something called the diff technique. And it's actually brilliantly simple. It's all about managing the difference, or diff for short, between the daytime temperature and the nighttime temperature. That's it. And this just lays out the effect perfectly. A positive diff, right, where the days are warmer than the nights, that makes plants stretch out and get all tall and leggy. But a negative diff, where you actually make the nights warmer than the days, that acts like a natural growth inhibitor, creating those short, compact, sturdy plants you always see for sale at the garden center.
And here's the amazing part. This system is so sensitive. A temperature swing of just 5 degrees Fahrenheit between day and night is often enough to totally change the shape of the plant. That's a level of precision that is just astounding.
Of course, growers have refined this even more with an advanced technique they call the morning drop. They figured out that the most critical time for stem growth is right around dawn. So, just by dropping the greenhouse temperature for 2 or 3 hours right before the sun comes up, they can get that compact shape without having to run expensive heaters all night long. It's all about working smarter, not harder.
But controlling a plant's height, that's only half the story. Temperature also has a massive impact on the quality of the flower itself. We're talking its size, its color, even its shape.
So why do cool temperatures lead to better flowers? Well, this quote just absolutely nails it. The cold slows everything down. It actually extends the budding stage, which gives the plant more time to pump energy and nutrients into the bloom. And the result? You get these wonderfully massive blooms with big, fluffy, spectacular petals.
Here's a perfect real-world example. Take the exact same variety of zinnia, okay? If you grow it in a cool northern climate, it produces these incredibly complex, multi-petaled double blooms. But if you grow that exact same plant in the heat of the south, it often switches back to a much simpler, single flower with way fewer petals. Same genes, totally different thermal story.
And we see the same thing with dahlias.
You know, in the dead heat of summer, their flowers can be a little meh. But once those cool autumn nights show up and the temperatures start dipping into the 40s, the blooms become absolutely flawless. Dense, perfect, exactly what growers are hoping for.
So all of this brings us to a final and honestly a really crucial point. This intricate, silent language that plants have been speaking for millennia, well, it's being disrupted. As our planet's climate changes, we're essentially changing the meaning of the words they've always understood.
And the biggest danger is what scientists call a phenological mismatch. Here's the deal. Warmer springs are telling plants to flower earlier and earlier. The huge problem is their pollinators, the bees, the butterflies, they might still be on their old schedule. So if the flowers open up before the pollinators even emerge, it's a potential disaster for both of them.
And the data on this is really clear and pretty alarming. Research shows that for every single degree Celsius that spring temperatures rise, on average, flowering moves up by nearly 3 days. Now that might not sound like a lot, but in ecological time, that is a massive, massive shift.
And this right here, this is the question that keeps ecologists up at night. The plant has done its part. It's responded to the thermal cue perfectly. But what happens to the entire ecosystem if its essential partner is late to the party? And you know, there's a paradox here, because it's not just about warmer springs. Warmer winters are also a really big problem. A lot of plants, like apple trees or tulips, they actually need a certain number of chilling hours to break their dormancy properly. If they don't get that sustained cold period, their blooms in the spring can be weak or sparse, or they might even fail altogether. What's more, not all plants are responding in the same way. What we're seeing is that spring blooming species are shifting their schedules way more dramatically than the summer blooming ones, and this creates this crowded, competitive rush hour for pollinators early in the season, which could be followed by a real scarcity of food later on.
So when you boil it all down, the key takeaway is this. Temperature isn't just a condition for plants, it is a language. It's a complex, precise conversation that allows them to read the seasons. And by changing the global climate, we are basically shouting over that conversation, disrupting a delicate sync that has taken millions of years to perfect.
And that leaves us with a final, really big thought. We've learned to manipulate this language on a small scale, inside our greenhouses. The question now is whether we can apply that knowledge to adapt our global agriculture and our ecosystems before nature's silent, beautiful, and absolutely essential conversation falls out of sync for good.